All right, welcome back everyone to week 3 of the GLCC weekly recaps. That is the Gym Leader Challenge Circuit, a monotype draft league hosted by myself and my good friend Central. His channel is in the description. Check him out. He posts lots of good content. He posts his games every week, and a bunch of other cool stuff. So make sure to check him out. Also, if you're interested in potentially playing next season or watching these battles live, I put a Discord link also in the description, so you can click on that and join the server, and you can pretty much see all this in real time. But with that, we're going to get into the recap. So this week, the first game played was actually my game versus Exilus, who is the Mono Fairy team, and I am Mono Flying. So just to quickly go over what I'm bringing, we have a Spadef Corviknight, a Terra Steel Scarf Gardecuno, a offensive Lando set with Calm Mind, Poison Barb Sludge Wave Thunderous with Prankster T-Wave to cripple stuff like the Azu and the Valiant, and then we have a Taunt Gyarados to take advantage of some of the slower threats on this team, more passive Pokemon, and set up Dragon Dances, and then we have a cool Driftbloom tech that will come into play later, so I won't spoil it too much. But shoutouts to Sir Blue for really helping me out with this team and with this matchup in general. But with that, we're going to get into the match. So on lead, I start off with my Scarf Gardecuno into the Tinkaton, get the immediate Terra off and U-turn out because I don't want to take a T-Wave, which does actually come out. So I go into Lando, get a free Earth Power here. He does go into the Levitate Wheezing, which makes sense, but I can just switch up Psychic because I am Life Orbed, and it does a good bit of damage, but it is definitely a Spadef Wheezing, so I go for the Sludge Wave on a mid-ground here. Potentially here, I could have actually set up a Calm Mind, looking back on it, because the Tinkaton was definitely going to switch out since it would just die to Earth Power, and Tinkaton is really important in this game for him, because it's like one Sludge Wave immunity, so maybe it would have been better for me to go for a Calm Mind, and that way I could have just one-shot the Wheezing afterwards and still have a Lando at full, which could have come into play here, where the Grand Bull Terra fights, doesn't die to the Earth Power that otherwise would have, I anticipated the Terra fighting and didn't go for the Sludge Wave for that reason, went for Earth Power, and so it doesn't kill the Grand Bull, and the Grand Bull goes for Ice Punch. I'm not sure about the offensive investment on this Grand Bull. I don't know if it actually would have killed if I was at 100%. It is an Ice Punch, so potentially it might have, so it might not have mattered. But if I had Calm Minded up, I could have killed the Wheezing, and potentially, I'm assuming it was probably a roll here at +1 to kill this Grand Bull. So potentially could have gotten the kill on this Grand Bull as well. But yeah, we do go into our Gardecuno to kill it with the Terra Blast, Scarf Terra Blast. Tinkaton comes back out. I go Thunderous on the potential T-Wave, and I do get knocked off here. And we see the Ice Hammer from the Tinkaton, which is what I was concerned about, which is why I do have some defense investment on this Thunderous. So you can see I took it pretty well. And I go for another Thunderbolt here to chip it down. And expecting my Thunderous to go down here, but he actually likes to get up rocks, which lets me take out the Tinkaton and then get off a very key T-Wave on this Booster Energy Valiant, which really helps me out because with the Booster Energy speed, I'm not too sure what I would have done here. I think probably gone Spadef Corviknight if he had taken me out, and then I would have revenged the Tinkaton. And then he had gone into this because I don't really have a great answer to this Booster Energy Valiant, because my Scarf Gardecuno doesn't actually outspeed it because, high base speed. So yeah, I mean, getting off this T-Wave here was really, really big for me because it let me go now into my Scarf Gardecuno, and now I can just Terra Blast to force an OHKO. Azu comes out because it is neutral to the Terra Blast. Now the Driftbloom Tep comes into play because Azu does get off the Belly Drum. And I was very concerned about this because Aqua Jet does in fact kill almost everything. I mean, Gardecuno does live and probably revenges it, but just to be safe, I am running this Endure red card Driftbloom set in order to red card the Azumarill out, and this was actually an idea given to me by Sir Blue. So glad to see that that was able to come into play here. But here I did make a misplay. I clicked Debon on the clef, which started setting up. And I should have gone hard Gyarados here, honestly, since I knew that if this was its setup set, I could have taunted it. And if not, I would have taken any attack and then been able to do some significant damage back with like an Iron Head. And then eventually just go into my Scarf Gardecuno after the Gyarados goes down and just kill with a Terra Blast. But yeah, because Terra Blast should clean from here. The Azu probably doesn't take one, but even if it does, it won't be able to belly drum up, and then I can just finish the game with Corviknight. But we do go hard Gyarados now as it sets up another Calm Mind. Now I can get off a taunt to prevent it from recovering, which is really good because my Gyarados does go down, but now I can go into Corviknight, Spit F Corviknight, which does two-shot this with Iron Head. And I do, in fact, live the Thunderbolt because Spit F Corviknight is a beast. It takes only 51% and then takes out the Clefable. And then from here, Azu comes in, and I can pretty much just Brave Bird this down until I faint, and then go into Scarf Gardecuno in order to win the game here. So yeah, that is going to be the whole game. But yeah, we see an Aqua Jet come out to take out my Corviknight for differential, and then Articuno just comes back in and clicks Scarf Terra Blast, and that is the game. So really good game, very fun. Definitely there was a lot of scary threats, like the Valiant, really booster speed Valiant was really scary, and of course Belly Drum Azu was also very concerning. So those were the really big threats. I didn't really expect the Grand Ball, so that was an interesting bring. And Tinkaton was also a pretty big threat to me with his Ice Hammer. And the crazy thing is that Blue actually predicted this exact set to come against me, so we were pretty prepared for that. But overall, fun game. And yeah, with that, we're going to move on to the next game. So I will be back. All right, we're back with the second game that was played this week, which is actually Mono Fighting with Not Kai versus Shattered Backboards, who is using Mono Dark. And so this is definitely an advantage matchup towards Kai. But Shatter does have some good options in the Jugu, the Mandibuzz. Murkrow also takes neutral damage. And Meow obviously has that protein, which lets it change its type. As well as Overqwil has Intimidate, which is really good against Kai's physical attackers. As well as allowing the poison typing, allowing it to be neutral. But we do actually have pace this week for each of these teams, so we can talk a little bit more about what each person is bringing and just give general thoughts about the build. So we do have a choice band Meowscarada on Shattered sides, which looks really good here with that banded play rough. Basically, probably Oko's almost everything. Yeah, I mean, the Okidogi is the only neutrality to it, which definitely still takes a lot, unless it's like very defensive. So we'll see how that plays out. But the Facade is a very interesting tech here. I'm assuming in case it gets burned, or maybe Toxic Chained from the Okidogi. So very cool tech. Yeah, I mean, Meow doesn't really need any other coverage here, so that makes sense. We do have a Choice Specs Jugless here, which is really strong. Very good speed tier, and of course it does have that Hurricane plus Air Slash in case he doesn't want to miss. So definitely looks pretty good here. We have a Rocky Helmet defensive Overcoat with Chilling Water and Toxic and Mud Shot. Interesting. I wonder what the Mud Shot is for. Maybe Iron Hands or Okidogi. Yeah, that's an interesting bring. Chilling Water is cool because it does reduce the attack and then allows the Overkill to rack up more Rocky Helmet chip. So very cool set. We do have a Eviolite Murkrow with Prankster T-Wave, Tailwind, Haze, and U-Turn. He does have to be careful about T-Waving the Conch because of Guts, as well as the Heracross, which could also have Guts. So that is something to keep in mind. But the Tailwind is a really cool tech here in order to beat potential Scarfers on this team. Although like Meow and Jugu basically outspeed everything. Anyways, but Tailwind makes sense because he is more offensive choice items here instead of choice Scarf. So very cool. We do have the Haze to prevent bulk ups, which is nice. Mandibuzz also has Tailwind. and has the normal U-turn, roost, defog, which makes sense. I think I would have liked to see potentially Brave Bird over defog, because there aren't really that many like spikers, rockers on this team. Like, it's just Great Tusk, which I mean kind of has a bad matchup into almost everything on the team. So I think potentially going Brave Bird just to have an offensive option to hit any of these mons with Mandy could be really nice, especially since Mandy is a very good bulky defensive pivot and can definitely take hits from almost everything on this team. So definitely, like, to threaten something like the Urshifu, which Ting Lu can't switch into, or something like the Great Tusk even, it could be kind of nice to have that Brave Bird option. But and then the last thing, we have a Whirlwind Spikes Ting Lu set. I think I would have gotten Stealth Rock over Spikes. I guess the point is that Stealth Rock doesn't affect fighting, so maybe not. Yeah, that makes sense. And then we do have a Protect with leftovers, which, yeah, it makes sense because there's not really anything else that you'd want to run on Ting Lu. Maybe a Ruination or to half some of these mons' health, but yeah, I think this is a good set. But yeah, we do see a full Fizdef build because Kai does have only physical attackers, which is something that he should consider potentially making transactions for to try to pick up some more special attackers. But speaking of Kai, let's look at his team. We do have a Rapid Spin, Play Rough, Stealth Rock, and Earthquake Great Tusk, which is really nice. We do see a Choice Scarf Heracross, which looks really, really good in this game, with that Mega Horn if he can hit, as well as close combats and earthquakes. Did bring Brick Break, which is interesting. I wonder what that's for. But I guess there's not really another fourth move that you'd really want. So we do have a Black Sludge Okidogi here with a high horsepower Drain Punch, Brick Break, and Gong Shot. Very interesting set. It is a more Spadef Okidogi. I wonder what it's Spadef for. Yeah, I'm not sure. There aren't really too many special attackers on Shattered's teams. It's pretty much just the Jugu, which Oki doesn't really beat anyways, because it does get both Earth Power and Hurricane as well as Air Slash. So I wonder why this was Spadef. I think potentially a Fizdef Okidogi would have been a little bit better just to take on things like the Meow's Play Rough a little bit better, but we'll see how it goes. There is an Adamant Choice Scarf for Shifu, which does really, really well here. So potentially the Rocky Helmet is going to be really, really useful on Overquill in order to try and chip this Urshifu down, because we do see that it's not protective pads. So that is something to keep in mind. We have a Guts Flame Orb Conch with Drain Punch, Mach Punch, Facade, and Thunder Punch. Pretty standard set, makes sense. And then we have a regular Leftovers Iron Hands. That is SD and 3 attacks. So yeah, with that, we can get into the game and see how this plays out. So we see a Great Tusk lead into the Meowscarada. Meowscarada immediately goes for that Banded Play Rough and does two-shot the Great Tusk, which Great Tusk does manage to get up the rocks and then switches out into the Spadef Oki. And here it does get two-shot by the Play Rough. So this play makes sense because, of course, unless this is banded, it won't two-shot. But I do think that this could have been Fizdef, and this would be a situation in which this would have really made a pretty big difference, because then it would have forced the Meow out. Because with Fizdef, it definitely would have taken less than half, probably around 40%, because banded Meow is still really strong. But at this point, you could force it out, force Stealth Rock Chip, potentially force damage on the Mandibuzz, get a nice knockoff, get rid of its boots, maybe even Toxic Chain it. So definitely something to consider in case there is a rematch for Kai. But we do see the Banded Play Rough connect again, take out the Okidogi. We see a Play Rough miss here into the Facade from the Conkeldurr. I wonder here if potentially Thunder Punching was just a better play. Because Facade without the Guts boost and Thunder Punch are pretty similar in power. I'm pretty sure Thunder Punch is actually 5 base power stronger, but more so for that 10% paralysis chance, because if you can paralyze this Meow, which is a really, really big threat to your team, you can be in a much better spot being able to outspeed it with some of your other mons, and maybe even the Conch afterwards, depending on how much speed Shattered is running on this Meow. But we do see the Flame Orb go off, and the second Play Rough does connect and does one-shot the Conkeldurr. So from here, we see the Iron Hands does force the Meow out, because Iron Hands does take one. And honestly, potentially after the Okidogi sack, going Iron Hands first could have been a better play, just because you do have the ability to live a Play Rough, just because Iron Hands is so bulky. This Iron Hands also has Spadef on it, which I think is interesting. I feel like Shattered's team is mostly physical attackers, so I really wonder what this Spadef was for. But we do see a Thunder Punch into the Rocky Helmet Overquill. And this is definitely a potential option to get up spikes here, or Toxic, which makes sense. So Toxic on the Urshifu is really big. We do see a Mandibuzz switch here. So yeah, I think this play is also fine, but I think it would have been interesting to potentially stay in with the Overquill and go for a spike just to start chipping this team down, or even the Chilling Water in order to reduce this Urshifu's attack, just to see if it is protective pads, because 2 max defense Overquill, it probably doesn't do too much damage after a Chilling Water defense attack drop. But I also understand this play. This play also makes sense just to scout for the protective pads, so you can see, because Mandibuzz doesn't really take a lot, as you can see. So we do see a Defog come out from the Mandibuzz, which makes sense because there's a lot of flying types on this team and the rocks are kind of annoying. We see a Tailwind come up, and Mandibuzz does eat the Thunder Punch here. But this is kind of a situation in which having Brave Bird potentially over U-turn could have been nice, just because you could have sacked off the Mandibuzz here to the Brave Bird instead of having to U-turn out into something and take the Iron Hands attack, as well as just getting chip on this Iron Hands for the Banded Meow, because Banded Meow does about like 70-80% if I remember correctly. The Mandibuzz Brave Bird definitely would have been able to chip this down enough so that Banded Meow could just come in and sweep later. So potentially an option there. But we do see the Tinglu come in, which makes sense. Does take a Play Rough very, very respectively, because it is a Tinglu and this mon is also insanely bulky. We see the Heracross come out on the Earthquake, which makes sense. We're probably going to see a Megahorn come out here. Protect comes out to Scout, which is good. And then we see the Megahorn come out. So this does actually stall out the Tailwind, which I think potentially here on the Heracross double, it could have been an option to sack off the Mandibuzz in order to get in Meow for free, so that you can click Play Rough and take this out with that last turn of Tailwind that you have. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with this play though. Actually, counting Tailwind turns, dude, that doesn't actually make sense. So never mind. Yeah, good play. Get Tinglu back all the way to full. Megahorn does miss. You do see the Whirlwind out, and Urshifu Rapid comes out. So now you can sack the Mandibuzz probably, or take the damage on Tinglu. And get up a spike. Okay, makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. I think there I might have just gone to the Mandibuzz to preserve the health on Tinglu, just because Iron Hands is really the last mon that really threatens your team at this point. And then if you sack off the Mandibuzz there, you can go into either the Kangaskhan, the Overquill to get that Intimidate off, and then potentially pressure with the Rocky Helmet, as well as, and then you could have done the same thing and gotten up a spike from that, which I think could have been an option, or potentially going Murkrow here to get off a U-turn, a Tailwind, and yeah, and then U-turn out into the Meowscarada could have been another option. But yeah, we do see the Protect on the Tinglu, which doesn't work because of the Unseen Fists. So yeah, even maybe this turn even, instead of going for a Protect, potentially going into the Mandibuzz, because you saw that the play rough did 29% to this Tinglu. So at this range of 51%, you can actually come back in on a play rough, take that 27%, get your leftovers, and then be out of range of the second one, so you can force it out one more time, which is really good because then that gives you chip on either like kills the Great Tusk or gives you more chip on the Heracross, which is a really big threat at this point. But yeah, I mean, overall, I don't think it matters too much because the main goal is just to force toxic chip on this Urshifu, which this does. We see more damage get taken off, and now we see the Overkill come in with the Rocky Helmet. Urshifu does go out, and we see a Heracross switch on the Mandibuzz double, which, yeah, this does put you in kind of an awkward position. I wonder what the double was predicting. Potentially just trying to save health on the Overkill, I'm assuming. But this does give Heracross a Moxie boost, which is a bit scary. Yeah, I think honestly just staying in here because you can stay in here at this point. Okay, let's play it out. You can stay in here at this point when you bring in the Overkill because at -1, this Urshifu is not doing too much to the Overkill, and the Toxic will kill it along with the attack. And you know, this also puts you in a better position in case he tries to make a double into something like the Heracross. But yeah, we do see the Mandibuzz sack here, which makes sense because you don't want to really sack anything else. Now Murkrow comes in, can get off a Prankster T-Wave, which also makes sense. And so now Meow can outspeed and take this out. So see the Overkill come in. And yeah, so now you're in kind of a similar situation to what you were a couple turns ago, except with the Mega Horn, except with the Heracross paralyzed. So, but it was a lot of health on Murkrow lost. But I mean, Murkrow doesn't really have much of a role here besides that. So I think this is honestly a perfectly fine position to be in. And then we see the Chilling Water come out to reduce its attack. We see the Genghis-Khan sack. Heracross takes more Rocky Helmet chip, and then the Meow can come out here. I do wonder if here going... actually, yeah, this makes sense. Yeah, okay. So yeah, we do see the Meow come in, go for the Flower Trick, take out the the Heracross, which makes sense. We see a pivot out in case this is the Scarf Urshifu, which it is. We see the U-turn with the Murkrow living on 1%. A Tailwind comes up, so now Meow should just pretty much be able to clean up with, I wonder, Banded Flower Trick, potentially, so that you don't risk a miss on the Iron Hands. So let's play it out. So if we see a Flower Trick here, then we have 2 turns of Tailwind left. Iron Hand comes out. You sack the Iron Jugulis to the potential Thunder Punch. Comes back in. No, this is the right play. Okay, so yeah, so you have to go for play rough here. Urshifu comes out actually. We see because of the Tailwind, it does outspeed, even though it's scarfed, and then play rough once again should finish it up. So, well, Iron Hands lives. The Track Drop comes out, and the Meow does actually live, and so Meow gets, what is that, 5 kills? It killed the Oki, it killed Iron Hands, Kong, Urshifu. Yeah, it killed Urshifu. I think it was just the Heracross. No, it killed the Heracross too. So actually, yeah, I think I got all 6 kills. So yeah, very good Meow game. And the Murkrow Tailwind as well as the Mandibuzz Tailwind was a really cool idea to give it support. And Shatter pulls off the upset. So well played to him. Really good brings. Well played to both players. But yeah, this is a really cool game. Play rough is kind of scary clicking it that many times in case it misses. But at this point, Shatter did have the Jugu in the back with choice specs with the Earth Power. So it definitely killed both Urshifu and even Spadef Hands. I'm assuming it probably killed. And with the Spadef investment, I'm not sure Thunder Punch even takes out Iron Jugu because Thunder Punch is Thunder Punch and it's very weak. So yeah. So this was really well played by Shatter to set this up as an endgame. And the Murkrow actually came in very clutch with that Tailwind. So yeah, good game to both of them. And with that, we're going to be back with the next game. All right, game 3 this week, we have Mountain Man with Mono Poison versus Mono Fire, piloted by Dracogon. So quick shout out to Mountain Man for having a gym leader persona. So another cool thing you can check out if you join the Discord is Mountain Man, whenever he schedules his games and stuff, he puts on a gym leader persona that's really cool. And he has a bunch of gym leader battle lines, as well as a gym badge that he gives out for when people defeat his gym. So very cool stuff. But we're going to take a look at the pace that he sent me. And just in general, looking at the matchup, we see Alolan Muck is a really, really good counter here to a lot of the special threats like Iron Moth, as well as the Charizard in the Sun. And Charizard is Dracogon's Terra Captain, as well as Revavroom is Mountain Man's Terra Captain. And we do have a Weezing here that also can really help out against that Hisuian Arcanine with those really strong head smashes. So we do see a Water Absorb Clodsire, which is very interesting. I wonder what the Water Absorb is for. Yeah, because Charizard is not Terra Grass. So that's very interesting. I wonder why he chose to go with a Water Absorb Clodsire. But potentially we can see if it will come into play here. We do see a Air Balloon Unburdened Sneasler, so we are not running a Poison Touch set this week with Hone Claws actually instead of Swords Dance, because a Rock Slide is being brought, which is a really cool tech. Hone Claws increasing that accuracy so that Rock Slide can't miss, and then Substitute as well in order to take advantage of, I assume, potentially something that didn't come. Yeah, or maybe even a Torkoal. Clicking like Lava Plume or Earth Power or something. So yeah, very interesting set. Rock Slide close combat does hit pretty much everything. So very cool. We have a Choice Scarf Glimmora, which looks really, really good in this game with that Power Gem Earth Power combination. Interesting to see Spiky Shield on a Choice Scarf set. I'm assuming that's in case he gets knocked off. But yeah, we do have a Terra Water Revavroom with Lumberry here, which makes sense. So the Lumberries to prevent burns. I really like this set with Taunt and Terra Blast. Very cool set, allowing him to set up on a lot of threats. We do have the Alolan Muck Max Spadef. It is a Black Sludge variant with Acid Armor in order to increase its defense, which is really cool, as well as Rest and Sleep Talk. With last move knock. So very cool set. And we have a Custap Weezing with Destiny Bond and Haze. So that's very fun. So very cool team build. I do wonder about the Spiky Shield on the Glimmora as well as the Water Absorb, but very, very cool techs. And Mountain Man brings a lot of really, really dope sets every week. So this will be exciting to see. On Dracogon's side, we do have pretty strong Sun Abusers in Iron Moth as well as the Charizard. Skeledirge is a very good defensive backbone, really hard counter as a Sneasler, honestly, especially with that unaware ability. And then Hisuian Arcanine just looks like a really big threat if the Weezing and the Clodsire get chipped down a little bit. But we'll see how this plays out. So we see a Glimmora lead with that Choice Scarf into the Cinderace. We do see a Spiky Shield into the Scorching Sands Cinderace, which is really interesting. So it is a forced switch out because of the Choice Scarf. So very interesting scout there. And we see the switch into Weezing on the Will-O-Wisp, which doesn't really affect the Weezing too much. I wonder what the Will-O-Wisp was for, potentially predicting, I guess, Sneasler, or yeah, I'm not really sure. But yeah, we do see a Will-O-Wisp. We do see the double into the Iron Moth on the Alolan Muck, which is a bad matchup, so it U-turns out, and we see Alolan Muck gets up a Acid Armor. So now we go for the knockoff of Torkoal's Heavy Duty Boots, and Yan forces the Muck out. So now Dracogon can make a double into Charizard, and the Muck actually stays in and clicks Acid Armor, which is pretty insane, honestly. That's a pretty insane play. But we see a Terra Ground Flamethrower, and that actually two-shots the Muck, which is crazy. Charizard is really, really strong. But we see a switch out from Mountain Man into the Weezing actually to sack it off, which is interesting. But I assume that's just to preserve the Muck for the Iron Moth. Yeah, which makes sense. Interesting to see that Dracagon decided to go for Flamethrower over Terra Ground, Terra Blast, but also that makes sense considering how much damage it did to the Muck. It definitely two-shot it, so also cover the Weezing, so that makes sense as a play. Yeah, I wonder if potentially going Clodsire here, because I think Clodsire is probably less important compared to Weezing, just because with Weezing gone, you don't really have great counterplay to that Arcanine as well as the Cinderace, and Clodsire probably took the Flamethrower better than Weezing did. But we do see the Scarf Glimmora come out to revenge with Power Gem, and then we see the Cinderace come back. Power Gem does bring the Cinderace down to its sash, and it gets off a strong Scorching Sands, which does one-shot the Glimmora. So we are 1 and basically 2 here. We see a Will-O-Wisp come out, but the Lumberry comes out on the Terra Blast, and Revroom gets up a free Shift Gear, and now this Revroom is in a very commanding position. We do see the Terra Blast Water. The Sun comes out in order to weaken that Terra Blast Water, but High Horsepower does take out the Torkoal. We see that unaware Skeletors come in, but now this is where the taunt goes really, really well here. You can prevent the setup from the Skeletors, you can prevent the Slack Off as well as the Will-O-Wisp, and basically take it down 1v1 and stall out the Sun turns in the meantime, which since you got rid of the Torkoal, now Terra Blast pretty much does really well here. We do see the Extreme Speed come out, and we see a big crit from the Arcanine. So depending on if it was banded, I think that crit did matter. There wasn't any real bulk investment on the Revroom, so maybe it didn't, but I'm pretty sure if it's not banded, that crit did actually matter. So we do see a big crit come out. It does look kind of like it's banded because it did click Extreme Speed again, but Clodsire didn't take nearly as much damage as I would expect from a banded Arcanine. So I'm assuming the Arcanine is scarfed based on that damage, which means that I'm pretty sure the crit wouldn't have killed otherwise. But we do see the Clodsire come in and take that Extreme Speed, force it out, force a Cinderace sack. We see a Psychic come out from the Iron Moth as well as another Earthquake. And now the Arcanine is the only mon left, comes out, does click Flare Blitz for a neutral click, and now the Sneasler can come in and pretty much finish off the game here. We do see a Flare Blitz. It does live the Flare Blitz and then goes for a close combat to win the game. So yeah, very well played by Mountain Man. Yeah, I mean, that Revroom with the taunt and the Lumberry was really, really well played on Mountain Man's part. He really positioned it pretty much ideally in that Cinderace after seeing that Will-O-Wisp, baited the Will-O-Wisp to get a free Shift Gear off, and then taunted the Skeledirge on the Will-O-Wisp, allowing him to 1v1 it. So very cool Revroom set. And yeah, GG to both players. This is a very cool match. And yeah, with that, we can go to the next one. All right, game 4 for this week. We have the Sir Blue with a Mono Ice team versus Cola's Ice, running with the Mono Ghost team. So very interesting. This week we've seen a lot of actually neutral matchups. I think only one real disadvantage matchup in that second match, Shattered versus Kai, fighting versus Dark. But pretty much everything else has been a pretty neutral matchup, which is really nice to see, especially considering for the last few weeks we have seen a lot of disadvantage matchups. So very cool. But we do have pace for both these squads, so we can take a look at them. We do see a Choice Scarf Ceruledge with that Bitter Blade and Solar Blade, interestingly enough, which is a 2-turn attack. So without Power Herb, very interesting bring. I wonder, potentially, is it for the Hisuian Avalugg or maybe the Mamoswine with that thick fat? So very cool tech. We do see a Choice Scarf Golden Go as well, with that Make It Rain, as well as Power Gem in order to hit a lot of these mons very hard. So we do see a double Scarf, which makes sense as both of these are pretty middling speed tiers against the ice types that are really, really fast, like Bax and Weavile, as well as just Alola and Ninetales. We do see a Heat Rock Prankster Sableye with Sunny Day, as well as Terra Blast Steel in order to hit the ice types, and Encore last move in order to potentially encore things into setup moves like the backs in case it tries to get up a Swords Dance, which is really nice. We do see a Choice Scarf Dragapult, so we're triple Scarf on this team actually. So really prepping for that Hail, Slush Rush, perhaps the Bear Tick that didn't come, but also just being able to revenge a lot of things, especially that backs, I guess, if it really gets set up with scale shots and things like that. But we are special with Fire Blast, Thunderbolt, Hydro Pump, and Draco Meteor. Very interesting 4 moves. No pivot, which I think is interesting on a Scarfer, but all these moves hit very, very hard, so I do think potentially maybe Thunderbolt could have been replaced with U-Turn for momentum. But yeah, we do see a very cool Dragapult set here. We see a Focus Sash Hisuian Zoroark so that it can live any one hit. And it is actually a Swords Dance set, which I think is really interesting. You usually don't see any physical Hisuian Zoroarks, but it does have a pretty respectable physical attack. So we do see that low sweep plus Brick Break in order to break the veil, as well as Shadow Sneak for priority. I really like this Hisuian Zoroark set. It's really cool tech. But lastly, we do have a Colbur Berry Gengar, potentially for the Weavile in order to take it out with last move Drain Punch, which is cool. And we do see a Naive Nature in order to allow the Drain Punch to actually take out the Weavile. So very cool team from Cole. And looking at Blue's team, we have a Choice Scarf Weavile. So triple Scarf actually coming into play with that Dragapult being able to outspeed this Choice Scarf Weavile. But we do see a knockoff Night Slash Double Dark move, which makes sense, as well as Ice Shard for priority. We see a Custap Sturdy Avalugg Hisui, which is a really cool set with Stealth Rock and Crunch in order to hit everything super effectively. And we are max HP, max attack in order to hit really hard. There is a Babiri Excalibur with Dragon Dance, as well as Ice Shard and Glaive Rush, which this mon definitely goes pretty insane here after one Dragon Dance. Yeah, it does outspeed all of the Scarfers besides the Dragapult. So it does definitely do really well, and it can definitely set up on the Golden Go if with that Babiri Berry being able to take the Make It Rain. So very cool set. We see a Salic Berry Ninetales, which is interesting. Coupled with the Endear allows it to get a speed boost and pretty much outspeed everything except for, once again, that Scarf Dragapult. So the Scarf Dragapult was really a really good bring into this matchup. But we do see a Nasty Plot Moonblast Dark Pulse, actually an offensive Ninetales instead of Veil this week. So very cool. And we see a very bulky Spadef Glaceon, really helping out versus that Golden Go with the Terra Water, as well as potentially the Dragapult Gengar, as well as the Zoroark Hisui, although in this week the Zoroark is actually physical. So very cool. We see a Wish Calm Mind set, and then Choice Scarf Mamoswine. So double Scarf on this team as well. So a lot of Choice Scarfs this week, which is very interesting. But yeah, with that Choice Scarf knockoff, as well as Ice Shard for priority, and we are Thick Fat. So we'll see how this plays out. We are Terra fighting on the Avalugg on blue side, and then Terra Steel on Cole's side with the Sableye. So yeah, so we see a Sableye into a Avalugg lead. Okay, so Sableye immediately switches out. Oh, but yeah, so it was actually a Zoroark that led into the Avalugg and switched out into the Sableye. We see a Earthquake come out from the Avalugg into a Sunny Day and an Ice Spinner from the Avalugg-Hisui, which is very interesting. And now it gets up rocks on the Sableye switch out. Make It Rain comes out from the Golden Go. The Sturdy comes out. It lives. Gets off a really strong Earthquake on this Golden Go. And we do see the Custap come out, a Crunch, and takes out the Golden Go, which is really good. So this Avalugg has gotten a lot of value. So we do see the Zoroark come out, which because the actual Sableye has like 18% left. And we see a Shadow Sneak come out from the Zoroark to take out this Avalugg finally. But this Avalugg did a lot of work. I mean, it got up rocks, it got rid of the Golden Go, and pretty much almost took out the entire Sableye. So very strong lead Avalugg there. We do see the Ninetales come out to reset that Sunny Day. Swords Dance comes out from the Zoroark as Ninetales sets up a Nasty Plot. And then from here, Brick Break comes out but doesn't do too much damage. And then the Dark Pulse just obliterates the Zoroark. So Premier Ninetales is in a really good position, but that Scarf Dragapult comes in to really potentially revenge this Ninetales as the Endure Salic actually comes into play, and now we have a very, very scary Ninetales here. But Cole does have that Scarf on the Dragapult, which allows him to outspeed even after the Salic, and he hits his second Fire Blast. So now Bax comes out with that Thermal Exchange. Sableye gets sacked to the Avalugg with that Stealth Rocks, and then Bax gets a free Dragon Dance up. So yeah, unfortunately this is a really tough position for Cole to be in. Yeah, I mean, after one Dragon Dance, right, Bax is faster than the Ceruledge. I'm assuming Ceruledge came in on the off chance that Bax was not speed creeping the Ceruledge, but I wonder, did the Ceruledge have Shadow Sneak? Yeah, I think here potentially going for that Shadow Sneak in order to get chip on this Bax would have been good, just so that the Dragapult can come in and revenge with Draco. Or maybe even just going Dragapult initially after you sack the after you sack the Sableye, potentially just going directly into Dragapult here in order to hit Draco and hopefully get rid of the Baxcalibur. Potentially, if you were scared of the Dragon Resist Berry, going Ceruledge and then getting a Shadow Sneak chip off and then going Dragapult could also be a play here in order to try to weaken this Bax down. But I think at this point, Cole's on so much of a back foot that he kind of has to go for the Dragapult play into the Draco Meteor in order to really stay in this game, because I think the Scarf Ceruledge is really essential here against some of these last mons. Even as just like a sack piece in order to reset Dragapult's Scarf. So, but we do see the Earthquake come out, take out the Ceruledge. Scarf Dragapult comes in now and gets Ice Shard and actually just dies to Ice Shard. So maybe not, honestly. Yeah, I think this is honestly just a tough position for Cole. Yeah, I mean, I think Gengar comes in and also just, drops the Earthquake. So yeah, I mean, at that point, yeah, it was pretty much just wraps as soon as this Baxcalibur got the Earthquake off, or the Dragon Dance off on the Sableye sack. So maybe, yeah, I mean, even if you go for the Fire Blast here, Bax just gets +1 attack. So it's very tough. And the same situation repeats. It depends on how much Fire Blast actually does to the Bax. I mean, potentially going for Fire Blast into the Baxcalibur. Yeah, I mean, maybe if Fire Blast Shadow Sneak killed, just staying in and clicking Fire Blast could have been good. But I think from there, you kind of just lose to Scarf Weavile. Clicking knockoff. So yeah, I think it was just a really tough matchup, I think, for Cole. And Blue brought just like the right sets, and that Avalugg just did so much damage to this team. I mean, having Golden go around to live that Earthquake potentially and take out the Bax would have been really nice. Like, yeah, I mean, just Avalugg just went absolutely crazy here and did so much damage to everything that and put this Bax in a really good position. But yeah, this is one of the reasons why we put Blue's team really high in the power rankings, just because it's so offensive and really, really hard to play around and switch into. That, you know, it's just really, really strong. And there's so many options that can set up and basically beat down the entire team. So it's very, very scary to play with that HO style. All right, back with game 5 for this week. So we have Central with Mono Dragon versus Lunar Echo with Mono Water. So just looking at the team, of course, Central does have the advantage with Dragon being able to resist water, as well as having really good mons like potentially Electro Shot or Caledon in the rain, as well as Raging Bolt with that electric type being able to do a lot of work to Lunar's team. So I do have Central's paste here. So we can take a look. We see a Yachi Berry Cyclozar with Power Whip and Supercell Slam, which is pretty heat. I didn't even know it actually got those moves. But we do see an offensive variant with Shift Gear. And so that looks really, really good into this team, actually, because Power Whip plus Supercell Slam hits pretty much everything, either super effectively or at least neutrally. And add +1, yeah, it probably just honestly takes out everything. Maybe a Bulky Wake variant might be able to live, or a Bulky Quack potentially. I mean, Cyclozar is kind of a weak mon, but yeah, I mean, at +2 definitely outspeeds everything. So we see a Leftovers Archaludon with Electro Shot and Thunderbolt, as well as Stealth Rocks. So this makes sense in this context. And we do see Leftovers as a bulky set to potentially take on the Floatzel. We see a Choice Scarf Roaring Moon for revenging. It interestingly has Choice Scarf Taunt to prevent setup. So I wonder what that's for. Potentially maybe the Quagsire, if the Quagsire tries to switch in to get off a big taunt on it and prevent it from really being able to do too much. We do see a Cobra Berry Latios for, I guess, knock on Quaquaval as well as Dark Pulse on Greninja. And it does look like a pretty good bait with Energy Ball, Thunderbolt, and then just dual stab. We see a Cobra Berry Appleton, which is the flying resist berry. So I'm assuming that's for like Brave Bird on Quack. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be too much else on this team that really has flying stab, but with this, I think this Appleton is kind of unbeatable, and I think this is going to be a really key piece here with that Thick Felt being able to prevent ice beams and other ice stab that Lunar definitely brought on his team. So this is also his Terra Captain. I believe it's Terra Steel. It's Terra Bug in this game. Okay. And we do see a light screen on it, potentially to help out versus the Greninja, as well as the Walking Wake, and its max defense. So bulky on both sides with that Apple Acid Leaf Storm combo. So we'll see how it does in this game. And then we do have an Assault Vest Raging Bolt, which makes sense. 3 electric attacks plus Draco Meteor. So we'll see how this game plays out. I do think Central has the advantage here, but there are some pretty scary options on Lunar's side. Of course, there's like a Battle Bond or Protein Greninja with Ice Beam. There is a Walking Wake that it can set up, and with the booster energy could potentially do a lot of damage, or like a Choice Specs. Quack is always a threat with that Moxie plus Aqua Step, and then no Rain, like no Pelipper, so the Floatzel and the Ludicolo will not be rain support unless they set up rain for themselves, which Ludicolo can do. So we'll see why those two were brought for this match. But I'm assuming Ludicolo definitely carries Ice Beam, and the Floatzel probably has Ice Fang, if I had to guess. Okay. So we see a Roaring Moon lead into a Greninja. So it is Choice Scarf, so we get a strong U-turn off, which allows us to go into the Assault Vest Raging Bolt. Nice. And that eats it up, honestly. Go for a Volt Switch on the Ludicolo. Fire nickname, by the way, Mirror B for the Pokemon Coliseum reference. We see the Yachi Berry come into play as the Cyclozor gets up a free shift gear. Now we see a Double Edge come in and take out the Ludicolo from almost full. See Floatzel come in. The Supercell Slam does in fact one-shot it. And now Quagsire comes in and doesn't drop to the Power Whip. So yeah, that's actually really surprising. I mean, this is a max attack Cyclozar, so this must be like a very bulky Quack, but it's because of Unaware. That makes sense. Yeah. So the Unaware allows it to live, even though it is a Power Whip. Cyclozar is like pretty weak without any boosts. So we do see a live from the Quagsire. It takes it out, and then Latios just comes in and revenges with Energy Ball. Now Walking Wake comes out. We do see a switch out on the Agility into a Dragon Pulse. I wonder, the Latios is not choiced, so I wonder why there wasn't a Draco that came out here. I'm assuming it's so that you could keep the Latios, I guess, but I mean, this Greninja's at 8% and you have a Scarf Roaring Moon. I feel like potentially you could have just gone for a Draco here and it probably killed. I mean, yeah, this is a max attack Lottie, right? Yeah, it's a max attack Timid Lottie. So it does guaranteed outspeed since no booster energy. I guess potentially fearing Scarf. So I can see that. But I think that potentially just going for a Draco here could have also been an okay play. But I think this works also. You go out into Archaludon. You don't really need it for anything else. You get a +2 speed off with the Agility, which is a really good set here because with an Agility, it does outspeed everything. And Dragon Pulse definitely does a lot of damage. We do see a Dragon Resist Berry, actually. So the Draco Meteor play was actually a good scout on Central's part. We see a Dragon Pulse come out. take out the Archaludon, but Appleton just comes in and eats everything. It ate that flamethrower. Gets up a light screen, and yeah, this Walking Wake is getting pretty much walled out. So we do see a Draco come out on the recover, I presume. Yep. And then one more should pretty much seal this Walking Wake's fate. Yep, there we go. And then Apple Acid will probably just win this game. And we do see another recover just to be safe. And then we see a light screen setup. I'm assuming another recover here just to get back to full. Yeah, and then Apple Acid finally to take it out. This Walking Wake has just been sitting here spamming Draco Meteors, which is funny. But we do see the spikes from the Gren. I guess just as a last-ditch effort. I mean, yeah, this Appleton was not really taking any kind of damage, so we do see Ice Spinner from Quack, and then Leaf Storm just takes out the Quack. So very good prep on Centra's part. Really good play scouting out that Haban Berry on the Walking Wake with the to prevent like the Draco or the other Dragon Stab. And yeah, really cool build. The Cyclosaur was really heat. It got a lot of kills. So, but yeah, good game to both of them. Very well played. And with that, we're going to move on to Game 6. Game 6. Okay, so we have Mono Grass versus Mono Bug. And of course, this is a disadvantaged matchup for Mono Grass, but Mono Grass does have some options. Vileplume does, in fact, neutral to the Bug Stab. Decidueye as well. Or actually, maybe not. But Ogerpon definitely is, and Jumpluff actually comes off the bench, and Jumpluff is the mascot for Curb here. So very cool brings. And yeah, we have a very interesting team from Arc here with a Silver Powder Slitherwing, normal first impression dual wing beat Leech Life and Wild Charge set. We do have a Expert Belt Volcarona, interestingly enough, with Bug Buzz, Fiery Dance, and Hurricane. So that does look like it hits everything on this team. So that's very interesting, but we'll see if the Hurricanes will land on the things that they need to land on. We do also see a Yanmega with Throat Spray and a Bug Buzz Psychic Air Slash set. Ribombee does have that Focus Sash and a Sticky Web, so I'm assuming we'll see that on lead, as well as U-Turn and Moonblast and Bug Buzz. And then we have a Scarf Cleavor and a Banded Scizor. So yeah, I mean, Scarf Cleavor looks really good, of course. Banded Scizor also looks really good. Volcarona, obviously, once it sets up, it does in fact beat everything on this team. So we'll see how that plays out. On the flip side, Curb does have this Jumpluff with Acrobatics potentially to hit almost everything once this Cleavor and the Scizor are chipped down a little bit. And Hydrapple is just really bulky in general, and it does pretty well in this matchup. Ogerpon, of course, with potentially like a Scarf set or a Bandit set, getting off those strong Ivy Cudgels will be really nice. And then the other stuff also looks pretty interesting. Vileplume, I think, will be pretty key in order to check the Scizor, as well as the Slitherwing, switching to those first impressions and Strength Sap it off. So yeah, let's see how this plays out. So we see a Jumpluff lead into Ribombee, which makes sense. Sticky Web comes up. We get Light Screen. Interesting. So it's a screen set. We do see a U-turn into the Cleavor. We see a Leech Seed come out from the Jumpluff, abusing the strong speed stat of it. And we see a miss from the Stoneaxe into a Tailwind and then Acrobatics. Interesting. So far we haven't seen an item here, so potentially it might be no item. Acrobatics. Oh, well, maybe not with the damage, but we do still have 2 turns of Tailwind, so even with the Sticky Web, we might outspeed this Cleavor. We do see a Brave Bird come out from the Decidueye, so that's really cool. I didn't know it got that, actually. We do see a Bulk Up on the Banded Scizor, and the Aerial Ace does take it out, so we'll see what comes in. Now we see the Ogerpon Hearthflame come in, and it gets up Spikes. Wow. Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that play. I mean, every time Ogerpon comes in, it does get a kill. So I think it's better just to claim your kill. Especially since with rocks up, Ogerpon can't come in that many times. It's just best if you're going to take it, bring it in and let it take that 25% to just try and get off that strong Ivy Cudgel. But yeah, we see Vileplume come out now. Do see the Terra into the water type. Does eat the Aerial Ace. And we see a Moonblast come out. Interesting. I think potentially a more defensive like Strength Sap set would have been a bit better here than Moonblast, especially since Moonblast doesn't really hit anything on this team. Yeah, I mean, it's just a Slitherwing, I guess, but yeah, I'm not sure about that click. But see the Bandit Aerial Ace take out the Vileplume, and Rotom comes in now. Should be able to take it out with a Volt Switch. We see a Shadow Ball come out, and it is a Leftovers Rotom, so not Scarfed. I wonder why Shadow Ball was clicked there. But we do see the first impression come out from the Slitherwing. It does take out the Rotom, and this looks pretty much like it is Wraps here. Yeah, we do see a Leech Life, and it does one-shot the Hydrapple. So, yeah, good game to both of them. I think there were definitely some interesting plays on Curbside, but I mean, this is a really tough matchup, right? You're staring out 6 bug types with Grass team. So, but it is cool to see the mascot come off the bench, the Jump Bluff, get up that nice little Tailwind, dodge the Stone Axe. So that was pretty funny. But yeah, GG to both of them. And with that, we're going to move on to the last game for this week. All right, last game for this week, we have Gradients with Mono Ground versus Lost Lotto with Mono Psychic. And Gradients this week is bringing Sand Offense. We can see that the Hippowdon is here with Sandstream, as well as a Choice Bandit Excadrill, actually, with Throat Chop, Iron Head, Earthquake, and Facade. Interesting to see no X-Scissor, but I mean, Throat Chop hits everything, honestly. So, we do have a Rocky Helmet Spadef Hippo with Crunch, Whirlwind, Slack Off, and Stealth Rock, which also makes sense. We have an offensive Garchomp this week with Life Orb, Swords Dance, and Scale Shot. So Scale Shot without loaded dice. We have a Toxic Orb, somewhat Spadef Gliscor. That's Knockoff Taunt Earthquake with the Toxic Orb in order to heal itself. We have a secondary Sand Rush Sweeper in Sandslash with that Terra type Fairy, which looks pretty decent here actually, with Knockoff Earthquake, Rapid Spin, and Spikes. And then we have a Slackberry Torterra with Endure in order to pop the Slack. And after Shell Smash, we can sweep with Crunch and Earthquake. Very interesting. This is a cool set. It is definitely going to be hard to find an opportunity, I feel, to get both the Shell Smash and the Salac off. But Torterra is pretty bulky, so potentially on a switch, getting a Shell Smash off and then enduring on the attack could be pretty successful. So yeah, very cool set. And then on Lost Lotto's side, we have a interesting Choice Scarf Latias with Trick and Ice Beam, as well as Dual Stab. We have a Shukaberry Slowking that has Toxic Spikes, since there is no Grounded Poison. There are 2 spinners on this squad, but I mean, Excadrill doesn't have Rapid Spin, and then Sandslash doesn't really want to be spending time spinning rather than just clicking attacks when Sand is up. So I think the Toxic Spikes will definitely be really good. And they do also prevent that Endure Salac Torterra set from really popping off. So we do also have the Light Clay Dual, actually just Reflect Espeon. Very interesting. It's very Fizdef with Wish and Protect. So it looks like it's a Hazard Bouncer as well as just a Fizdef Espeon that can set up screens for the rest of the team, which looks really good here into 6 physical attackers. So a really good set. We have an Expert Belt Terra Grass Delphox with Flamethrower and Grass Knot, as well as Will-O-Wisp to cripple things. So the Terra Grass is going to be really key here in order to resist the Ground Stab and flip that matchup. And then we have a Choice Specs Necrozma, Max Defense, Max Special Attack. with Expanding Force that is going to be abusing the Psychic Surge from the Indeedee. And the Indeedee actually has a very interesting Custaps berry set with Endear, along with Trick. So potentially could get off a fast Trick and get remove something's item, or get off a fast Healing Wish in order to rejuvenate potentially a Delphox that has been chipped down, or a Necrozma, and basically restart the cycle. So we'll see how this plays out. Very interesting teams from both sides, some very cool sets. So we can see who emerges victorious. Okay, we see a Sandslash lead into the Espeon. So a Reflect comes off into a knockoff, but we do see the Light Clay, which means 8 turns of Reflect. Espeon gets up a Wish as Gliscor comes in and gets off its Toxic Heal. Espeon just goes straight for the Psychic. We do see that it's a pretty spit F Gliscor. Go for another knockoff as Espeon continues to spam Psychic. Here Gradience is forced to go for Protect. Yeah. I was going to say potentially could have switched on that Protect, but you also just don't know that if the Gliscor has Protect or not, and if it doesn't, you do just immediately remove the Gliscor. So yeah, that does make sense. And then we see a switch into Hippowdon, because this Espeon is in fact winning this exchange. We see a Wish come off into the Crunch. This Espeon is just eating everything. I mean, the Wish comes out and it's going to heal it back to full as the Sandrush Extra Drill comes out. We do see the Reflect wear off, unfortunately, and a Throat Chop come out from the Excadrill. So we do see this switch into the Indeedee. It does actually take the Throat Chop, and now it's in Custap Berry range, which is really awesome. So now it can go for a Trick in order to remove its band, or it can go for something like just an Attack Energy Ball, I guess. But yeah, at this point, I think Trick is just the best play here. Yep. And it does remove that choice band, so now this Excadrill is no longer hitting as hard. The sand is gone, so it's not longer fast. And Necrozma comes in and basically claims a kill here with Expanding Force. Or Heat Wave, yeah. So Heat Wave does two-shot this Hippowdon. You see the Sandstorm come back up. And we see Garchomp come out. This is the offensive Garchomp. It does go for a Scale Shot. We see a 4 hits. Okay, no loaded dice, 4 hit Scale Shot. And then we see the Crunch come out and take out the Slowking. So Garchomp is taking some Life Orb recoil, and then we see the Choice Scarf Latias come out, get off the Ice Beam, outspeed the Garchomp. So a big threat has been taken down. And so Excadrill comes back out. Delphox almost gets sacked. Now you can just Terra, or just not Terra and go for the Flamethrower. Now we see the Terra into the Grass Knot, which doesn't do much because the Sandslash does Terra Fairy. But we do have the Choice Specs Necrozma to come in here and just click Photon Geyser. And honestly, it probably takes out the Sandslash. Oh, it doesn't without the Choice Specs. So Necrozma does come in, clicks Photon Geyser again. Sandslash goes down, and now there's just the Excadrill and the Shell Smash Torterra here. So Throat Chop comes out, and without the specs, without the band, Excadrill does not take out the Necrozma, so it takes a bunch of chip, and now Ice Beam just cleans up from Latias, the Scarf Ice Beam. So, yeah. So, I mean, honestly, there were some really, really cool sets on Lost All side. The Trick Custap really came into play there, where the Excadrill with Choice Band still didn't take out the Indeedee, and then was able to get off the Trick to remove the band, which allowed Necrozma to live the Throat Chop at the end there and get off a strong Heat Wave, so that the Scarf Latias could clean up. So yeah, I mean, just a very well played game on both sides. I think perhaps Gradience sacked the Hippowdon a little too early, especially when the Necrozma came in and clicked Heat Wave. Potentially going Garchomp on that turn could have saved the Hippo for later and allowed you to use Excadrill more aggressively. So that could have been potentially a different play, or sacking the Gliscor at that point, since you do see that it doesn't really beat anything on the team, especially since the Glow King and the Indeedee are now gone. The Gliscor is almost useless, so potentially sacking Gliscor there could have also been the play. So yeah, the Sand Slash also I think could have been Terra Blast potentially, in order to do a bit more damage, especially to this Latias. But really, I think otherwise there wasn't really too much that was wrong on either side. I mean, I think it was just Lost Auto was able to out prep Gradients, but very heat sets on both sides for sure. But yeah, with that, we are going to end off our recap for this week of the GLCC. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.